Unfortunately, I've got some bad news. Most of you have been lied to about brisket from the time you started barbecuing, but we're here to save it today. We're here to help you out and produce a better product in your backyard. So let's take this wagyu brisket, get straight to it. The wagyu brisket, what many consider to be the ultimate backyard barbecue meat. Conquer this brisket and you've conquered barbecue. However, there's been a recent craze over the Texas brisket as of late. And while there's nothing wrong with the Texas brisket and the idea of salt and pepper, which I could go into for hours, or offset stick burners reigning supreme, this video is not about that. The problem with me, with the brisket that I see everybody cook, including myself at times, all has to do with the lack of trim, which results in a poor final cut. What I mean is everyone is leaving the point and the flat attached, slicing one direction, which is great for one of the muscle groups you're on, but is the exact opposite way for the other one and will result in the poorest bite possible that you can have. If you're running a cafeteria style barbecue restaurant and you need to serve 1,000 people a day, I get it. It takes time to separate these two muscles. But you and I, we're usually cooking 1, maybe 2, maybe 5 briskets in our backyard for the people we care most about. So why not make those bites the best bites that meat can provide us? That's right. I'm saying everyone's doing it wrong. You need to separate your flatten point. It's easy. We're going to show you how I do it for a competition trim with almost no waste. Today I'm going to be trimming 2 briskets, 15 to 17 pounds a piece. We're going to go ahead and just take off this back section of flat and get a very clear line of where the seam is between the flat and the point. If you're unsure about any of this, get smaller knives and just take small cuts. But me, I love using the brisket slicer because it's long, it's flat, it's going to keep our cut nice and even, resulting in a very flat lying brisket at the end. Once we find the seam, we're just going to follow it all the way down. What I recommend is picking the bigger muscle of the two. Not all briskets are the same. Sometimes your flat will be bigger, sometimes your point will be bigger. But take the heavier muscle, put it on your cutting board, and pick up the lighter one. Let gravity help you find that seam and ride it all the way out. You've now done 99% of the work to set yourself up for success in your upcoming brisket cook. Now all that's left to do is clean up this flat. We're going to take some fat off the top of it. We're going to try to level it out on the bottom so that we don't get pools of fat that wash off our rub. And sometimes we'll even use some shims of fat that we've cut off previously to stuff it under this flat to make sure it domes up nice and pretty. When it comes to the point, there is so much fat inside this, especially on a wagyu, but really even down to select. You don't really need that much fat on these to cook them. We're going to go ahead and remove pretty much all the fat off the top of it. Along with that, we're going to remove any like hanging points or thinner points, add that to our pile to trim later. Remember, we're pretty much not going to waste any meat off of this brisket. Get it squared up into a nice square. That way, when you cook it, you can either puff it up and cut it for slices, or you can do Kansas City style burn-ins. This gives you options. Lastly, we're going to go through that pile that we've just set aside, and I like to trim this up for stew meat. If you have a grinder, you could absolutely make burgers or beef sausages, but I'm telling you, brisket stew meat is a game changer. Basically, I'm just going to take any fat off of any of these pieces and cut them into like little 1x1 cubes. That only leaves us with fat. Now, do what you want with it, make sausage, smoke it and make tallow, whatever you want to do with the fat, but that's the only thing left here. Just like that, maybe 20 minutes worth of trimming, being extra careful. We've got our flat perfectly set up for perfect slices all the way through. We've got a good bit of stew meat. You'll see a recipe on this coming up. This is fantastic. You cannot beat wagyu brisket beef stew. And then you've got your point for if you want to slice this as well, or if you want to create Kansas City style burn-ins. Every piece that we have remaining here is set up to be perfect. Nothing has to be mediocre because we were a little bit lazy in doing it, because we don't have to serve 1,000 people a day, 5,000 people a day. We're going to make one brisket. We're going to make every piece of it perfect. Now, if you want something different to do with this wagyu point, then meet me over here and let's make the best breakfast you've probably never heard of.